We're interviewing Carol Kennedy-Armbruster this afternoon. And anyhow, thank you. I probably botched up your last name.
Armbruster.
Armbruster. I would have spelled it B-R-E-W-S-T-E-R. But anyhow, thank you for joining us, Carol.
It's good to be here.
I just wanted to sort of start and ask you a little bit about your early education, where you went to school, what you studied, that type of thing.
Okay. I started my education at the University of Illinois in 1976, and I graduated in 1980. When I went there, I wanted to be a physical education major. My goal was to, teach PE, and I was all excited about that. And my junior year, I did a practicum, second grade, Leal School, Urbana, Illinois. And my practicum teacher told me. I know what you're going to say. Were you weren't my practicum teacher.
No,
okay, good. Said that she didn't think I'd make a very good teacher. I smiled too much, and I lacked discipline, and so she wasn't sure this was going to be the field for me. And I was devastated because my goal was to be a PE teacher. So I kind of hunted around, and I said, well, I'm going to go into recreation. Joined the recreation program in my junior year. And I thought, well, I'll do my internship at a YMCA, because those people, they want to be there, they like to move around, and that's a better choice for me. So after doing my internship, which was in 1980, I was asked, do you teach aerobics? And I said, aerobics, what's that? Never had heard of it. And they said, oh, it's really easy. You just put on records and you jump up and down to music. And, my background was a little sports and tennis, and I was a cheerleader, so I thought, well, I can do that.
I can do that, yeah.
So I jumped up and down to music, and, the first ACSM guidelines, I believe, were in 1978, the position statement. I didn't even know that. So we did about 2 to 5 minutes of jumping up and down, then the rest we just kind of did sit-ups and whatever came to mind. And I remember people telling me, oh, that hurts my back to do 2 minutes of sit-ups, and I'd be like, sorry,
Yeah, right.
Really didn't know that much about exercise.
Now this is at the Y? This is still
at the Y, yeah.
Was this in Champaign, Urbana
area?
Or?
Went to Danville, Illinois. That's my dad worked for Heister in Danville, Illinois, so I went there for my internship.
Okay.
And then got a job in Sheboygan, Wisconsin in the rec department. I was a teen. I was supposed to keep all the teens out of trouble by organizing things. And of course I gravitated towards movement and fitness and started using my experience as an aerobic dance person with some of the kids, and stayed in Sheboygan about 1 year, 2 months, and 28 days, and then went to Colorado. I got my master's at Colorado State. And I was out about 6 years in between my undergrad and my master's, and I was actually recruited to Colorado State. They had 2 hours required physical education of all majors at the time at CSU.
At the whole university?
The whole university. Wow. And they had 26 sections of aerobics with 60 people in each class. And they had exercise science majors, coming in to get their masters, and they really didn't want to do that. So I was working at a local health club, and the department chair of Colorado State, he came in and he said, well, how would you like a graduate assistantship? Because you look like you like this. We need your help. And I said, sure, I'll go back to school. And so I got my master's in exercise science at Colorado State.
Wow. And what town is that in?
Fort Collins.
Fort Collins. I'm trying to think of Roger Enoka was
Yeah, not at the time I was there. I forget who our department chair was at the time.
So then you did your master's in exercise physiology.
Then I did, yeah. I took a class in exercise physiology and loved it. McArdle Catch and Catch. Loved the book, and I went, this is where I need to be. And I think originally when I was at Illinois, I really wanted fitness, but it didn't exist yet. And I had been teaching Jackie Sorensen's aerobic dancing, all those, and really was into teaching group exercise. And when I was at Colorado State, they actually asked me if I would teach a class on how to teach. So all the exercise science majors that wanted to teach did, and I started doing that and putting booklets together on how to teach group exercise, and
perfect fit.
it was sort of my thing. And
Did you have an undergrad class in exercise phys at Illinois?
none.
None. Wow.
Not one. I mean, as a PE teacher, you take anatomy, and I mean, Illinois was very, I took a lot of science at Illinois, and I liked it. I enjoyed the sciences, and I enjoyed what I was learning, but clearly I knew I was a fitness person, but all my only choices were physical education. Because at that time, even at Illinois, there was the men's and the women's gyms.
Yes,
you know?
yeah, I remember that.
So it was very desegregated, but I knew eventually once I found fitness, that was my thing. So.
Well, so when you were an undergrad at Illinois, did you know about ACSM at that point?
Did not.
No. Okay.
Had not heard of ACSM. No. Well, you know, I was in rec.
That's true.
So
you
they
had,
really
you had changed a little bit.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Now, when I
you
went to
wouldn't have
Colorado
that.
State, when I went to get my first job, I heard about the certifications. I actually got AFA certified first as a group exercise instructor. And then I went to get my first professional job, and they said, you should be ACSM certified. And I said, okay. And, you know, all the professors in exercise science at Colorado State, you know, talked about ACSM. And
Right.
so I went and I took the test, and it was very interesting because I had done max tests. I did a thesis on water exercise, and I had never done a submax test. I did EKGs, you know, all that stuff, but here I was going to try to pass the HFI, and I had never done a submax test before. Wow. So I knew I needed a little more experience, and I actually went back to Illinois and was hired as a health educator. I worked in McKinley Health Center for about 5 years, and
Okay, so that's after your
after my
master's in
master's.
Colorado.
went back to Illinois. Had some family situations. I lost my mom, and I have a lot of younger sisters in my family, so I moved back to the Midwest.
Okay, but you were at University of Illinois then?
Yeah,
there.
I got hired as a professional in the Student Health Center. My job was to take physician referrals and actually do testing. So I did that for about a year, and then I went and took my ACSM HFI because I had done hundreds of submax tests.
That's what I was wondering, if you took that when you were still at Colorado, but you waited.
I waited because I looked at what I had to do, and I thought, I've never even done a submax test.
Yeah.
I've run a bunch of max tests.
And how did you learn that then? Did you at Illinois somehow when you
I
were
did.
there?
When I came back to Illinois, there was a few people at Illinois that were really into ACSM, and
Yeah,
now that I
sure.
think about it, it's like Jim Peterson, Ed Howley, I believe there's a lot of people
Yeah.
that had come through Illinois.
Yeah, oh, that
And
was a
it was a
mainstay
mecca,
with
yeah.
Curitin initially.
Yeah, TK Curitin.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So I learned it while I was there, and then I went and got certified. And
Okay.
I've been certified as an ACSM HFI since 1989.
Wow.
And renewed my certification for, 20-some years.
Wow. So do you have to renew every year? Or
Every
how does
2
that
years.
work? Every.
Yeah, by coming to conferences like this
Okay.
and the national meeting. And I have a strong appreciation for ACSM and the knowledge and the research that they do. And I think they've shaped me as a professional to always ask questions and look at the research before you give out information.
Well, so doing that certification then was really
It was big.
your first connection, really.
It was
in a
very big, yeah.
serious
It
way
was, yeah.
with
And I was not
ACSM.
involved with them other than getting the certification. And then after 5 years at Illinois, I got hired by Indiana University. They were opening a $25 million rec center, and I needed a little challenge, and they had a program director for fitness. So I had my ACSM credentials, now 5 years of experience, and they hired me to basically buy all the equipment, set up the entire program. I spent over $1.5 million on
That was fun.
I had a lot of free lunches from those equipment vendors. It was interesting, though, because I really didn't have much background in that end of fitness.
So
I
this
had
is
a
the
lot more.
student recreation building on campus,
Yep.
basically. That.
Yeah, I was hired in '94. It opened in '95, and for 8 years I was the program director for fitness and wellness. I learned a great deal. I learned more on the job than I had learned in my education. I mean, it was a very challenging position.
Now, was that part of a requirement of students, or was this sort of what we call on our campus recreational
Recreational sports, yeah.
So
you
these
pay
are
your,
people that wanted to come take classes.
Yes, yeah.
Rather than a requirement.
Not a requirement. It was not
Yeah.
an academic. It was
Right.
I was using my combination rec and fitness background
Yes,
to do
yes.
recreation.
Okay.
But what I learned when I was at Indiana is we had an exercise science department, but I was trying to hire group exercise leaders and trainers, and they weren't trained at Indiana to do that. So I approached the department chair and I said, could I start some classes?
Oh, good for you.
Because I had been teaching at Illinois and Colorado State. I taught a class on how to teach group exercise. So he said, you know, sure, you know, you want to teach adjunct, and I started teaching classes. Well, I ended up teaching 3 classes, and then I was working full time, and I kind of went, time out. I need to do one or the other.
Yeah, yeah.
So about 9 years ago, I was hired full time by the department chair as a faculty member
Oh, fantastic.
to help another faculty member create a new degree program called Fitness Specialist.
And this is what Mary's
Yeah,
coming to join
Mary
you.
Oak is coming to join us, and is going to be on our staff coming this August.
She was telling me all about it. I said,
Yeah.
it sounds like a perfect fit.
It is.
So you're going to
Well,
have a real neat
We're going to be
program.
powerhouse.
Yeah,
We are.
that's awesome.
I'm proud of what we've done because
Yeah.
it's, you know, exercise science serves a great need. A lot of people go through that program, become an occupational therapist or physical therapist or PTA, but there's a lot of kids that want to help people now, and they may not go the medical route.
Absolutely.
So those are the kids that kind of go our way. We have 140 majors now.
Just in your
Just
part of the
in
program.
fitness, yes. And I only teach majors, which is great for me.
Yeah.
Because now I am teaching all those people I wished I had, you know, had this
You
kind of
needed
curriculum.
when you were over there. Yeah.
When I was at Illinois, I would have just loved this curriculum
Yeah.
because it was exactly
Yeah.
what I wanted.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, you know, Mary and I wrote the book on group exercise.
She
So-
was just telling me about it. Yeah.
Yep.
And is that the one that's going like second or third edition?
We're on our
or-
3rd edition. Yeah.
Is that human kinetics or who?
It's the first research-based. Both Mary and I did our master's thesis on group exercise. And we met at a conference where we were presenting our research, and we both said, you know, there needs to be a book on this, that no one has really ever captured all the research in group exercise, and we knew it was out there. So I think our book will probably be one of the first research-based
Yeah.
books
And
out
rightly, and it should be.
It should
I
be.
mean, yeah, it should be.
Well, we're practitioners that went back to get more education and share it, so
And you greatly appreciate it now and
yeah.
understand why it's important. And
of course.
so are you now talking about ACSM with your students?
Of course. Well, I joined the ACSM Certification and Credentialing Committee
sure.
years ago when Bob Otto and Walt Thompson were
Yes.
our fearless leaders.
Yeah.
And we got invited in because they decided to do a group exercise certification. And Mary and I were kind of, you know, Mary and I didn't really know each other very well, but we got to know each other real well on that committee. And that experience has changed me as a professional. You know, it was voluntary, but I met some of the best people in the field, learned from them, learned what ACSM was. I remember Ed Howley in one of our certification and credentialing meetings coming in and saying, you know, the most important thing that ACSM has done is those position statements. And I thought about all the books I've read and everything I've done, and he's exactly right, that ACSM sets the standard by which all organizations come in and set their standards. So.
Including the certifications. I mean,
Yes.
you know, I mean, those ACSM certifications are almost a whole different ball game
They are.
compared to some of the other ones.
Well, now, like with the health fitness instructor, and by the way, at IU we've renamed our program the health fitness program because we're kind of following the guidelines, the KSAs, the knowledge, skills, and attributes that ACSM has put down. I think they do a real good job of figuring out what it is that a professional is, and then saying, you know, this is what you need to know because this is what professionals do.
Yeah, so it's a
So.
good model and
Very good model.
stick with it. Huh? So the summit then is right up your alley.
Oh, yeah.
I mean it's just a natural.
I've been at the summit every year. I probably presented 8 or 9 of them. I totally support ACSM valuing and appreciating practice.
Yeah,
And
sure.
putting research into
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
You know, I think the people that come here, that's what they're looking for.
And when I walked by this morning and I looked in the room and there's, I don't know how many people in there doing group exercise.
Right.
That sort of says it all right there.
It is. Yeah, it's exciting for me to finally see ACSM kind of embracing the need to take all the research and see it into action. Because the national meeting is awesome. I go to the national meeting too.
Yeah.
But that is, you know, more research, and oftentimes you have to sit there and say, now what do I do with this?
Yeah, how
But
do I apply this? What does
Yeah.
it really mean?
But when you're at the summit, you know what to do with it. And the people that present and are part of the summit are all people that value making sure that when they're giving recommendations, they're based on research. And I don't see that at all the conferences I go to. That's
sure.
why I like coming here.
Yeah. Well, now, have you been associated with the Journal of Health and Fitness? Or
I am
what's it
on the
called?
I'm on the
ACSM?
editorial board.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I have an article coming out in July
Okay.
in it, and have worked with Ed Halley. Ed Halley has been a great
And now he's
author.
stepping down.
I'm very
so-
sad about that.
Yeah, he was great. He was,
Well, you know, there's very few full professors. I work with several of them that really have embraced the concept of needing to bring it back to the public, and I think Ed Halley and has, you know, been instrumental in that.
Yeah.
And so has Larry Golding.
oh,
I mean, Larry Golding.
yeah, initially, yeah, that was true. That
Well,
Major.
for me, being on this committee and knowing Larry Golding, that's special.
yeah.
I mean, Larry is, to me, the father of YMCA's.
Yeah,
and
he did so much. And interestingly, before him, Curitin.
Yep,
Curitin did an amazing amount of work with the
Yes.
YMCA's.
he did. And his son,
So-
Kirk Curitin
Kirk,
at
yeah.
Georgia, he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to visit there next month and share some of my research with them. So,
Yeah, I did a very huge article on TK for Research Quarterly a number of years ago, and his wife was still living and wrote me a little note and said how nice it was, and Kirk wrote me a note. But the neatest thing was just last year, one of TK's granddaughters,
wow.
who was only 8 when he died, found out about it
Oh, wow.
and read it online and wrote to me and said how neat it was. She never knew her grandfather.
Wow.
So that was really special, and it, you know, it tells me how important history is.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah, especially, I think, I didn't know when I went to Illinois how special it was at the time to produce a lot of the people that have made a huge difference in ACSM.
Major.
Yep.
Yeah, Bill
I mean-
Haskell, Jim Skinner.
Well, and another person for me that's been a mentor is Dr. Getchell.
Yeah.
Bud Getchell, who was at Ball State with Castle.
Yeah, that was a.
He got me teaching at Indiana University. I mean,
Okay.
he saw that I liked teaching group exercise, but he was like, you need to teach, and you need to be in our kinesiology department, and he really, you know, made that happen for me. So I've had a lot of great mentors through ACSM. I mean, every one of them have been, you know, a large part of ACSM.
Yeah, that's. Wow, I told the time's almost flying here. Okay, sort of last thing. You've been involved in the summit and all this. So do you think the summit is sort of where it should be at this time, and where do you see it maybe going in the future? Or
Whoa.
things going right?
Future prediction. This is going to
Well,
be scary.
Yeah, just you know, what do you see coming up, or what? I think they do a pretty good job keeping up
They do.
with the new stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the fitness industry right now is still a little decentralized. You know, you have other organizations with certifications, and everyone sees ACSM as the gold standard, but still there's other organizations that have a huge stake. And my hope is that ACSM will kind of bridge the gap with all the organizations,
I
because
see,
as
yeah.
a faculty member, I'd like to see one national certification.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it would make it a lot easier as a faculty member that we all embrace and endorse.
That would make sense,
Yeah.
whether it happens or not.
I think the industry is still in its infancy. You know, I think that it's been around a long time because I've been involved in it for 30 years, but it's new.
Yeah.
Fitness is new. understanding now that we don't know hardly anything. That I think we're just beginning to learn how to do this, and you know, obviously whenever you have a new profession, it's different than accounting. I mean, everybody takes a CPA exam, boom.
Yeah.
I think we'll be there, but everybody has different ideas right now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I come and am a part of ACSM because I still think everybody looks to ACSM for the answers.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too. Sort of the final say.
Yeah. Well, what do they think?
Yeah.
Because, you know, they're the ones that are out there researching more every day, and, you know, they set the guidelines, and people may not like them,
Right.
but they're usually right. And they usually come back to that's science-based, and that's, you know, what we should be doing.
And I think their certifications, everybody realizes, are a little more difficult.
Well, they're more rigorous.
But I think overall, they're appreciated more, though,
Sure.
too. They're more meaningful.
When I'm looking and interviewing kids and they got an ACSM certification, they go in this pile
Yeah.
because it separates you.
That's what I've heard.
It tells me you're serious. It tells me you've gotten the schooling you need to pass a test at that level. And yeah, it's not a whole lot of people, but that's because it's harder to pass.
Yeah, that's right. Well, thank you, Carol.
Sure.
It was really nice meeting you.
Nice meeting
Thanks
you.
for the chat.